LA riots. The author is Ryan Gattis. He's a writer and a lecturer at Chapman University.
Ryan Gattis joins us now. We were just talking about where were you, because it really is one of those moments you can remember when everything went to hell.
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely. I was living in Colorado Springs at the time. We were talking about it earlier. I was 14, but the images that I saw on television were absolutely indelible.
Yeah. You were only 14 years old, and yet this was enough of an interest to you to really do this kind of research. It took you almost 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Talking to, who did you talk to?
I spoke to former gang members. I spoke to firefighters, nurses, other citizens in LA who just happened to be connected.
So how do you find gang members who know something about the riots? Hey.
You know, it's an interesting question. You know, I think in many ways it was just a series of being connected to acquaintances. I'm part of a street art crew here in LA called Uglar, and we've been doing murals for many years, and I guess we have enough of a reputation, you know, that we have that respect that people are at least willing to talk to us.
Looking at the video from back then in '92, you know, we all remember these images of cars being overturned and the big fires, but one of the things you said, it was the areas that weren't getting television coverage that really stood out to you. Why?
At least, well, while I was doing my research, it just seemed amazing to me in speaking to people that many of these areas, in particular Linwood, which is the city in the book, had almost no police presence and no emergency assistance. And it just seemed ripe for fiction, you know, especially historical fiction that could delve into something outside of these images that we're very, very used to seeing.
This all emanated out of the Rodney King verdict, and you know, there was that undercurrent of racial tension there, and yet you almost see this wave now with Ferguson and things that are happening across the country in South Carolina. I mean, what's your take on that?
You know, it's interesting because I think in some ways there are some similarities with the LA riots, in particular racial targeting, an overly aggressive police force that may have some legacy of racism. But LA is such a different beast. You know, we are so diverse, we're so big, over 5,000 square miles, LA County. You know, 90 different languages spoken in LA, you know, an ethnic or an immigrant community for almost every country on earth. So in some ways, it's very difficult to draw that kind of parallel. And the LA riots, honestly, were the worst in terms of destruction civic event in the history of the United States.
They hit particular areas, but at the same time, if you talk to anyone that lived here at the time, you know, you lived in Beverly Hills and you saw the flames or the smoke emanating from, really, it wasn't that far away, and it really struck a lot of fear in the city.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why the book's called All Involved. It's because, not just because it has 17 different first-person narrators, but because everyone who is in the book, every character is connected and affected by what happens during the riots.
So you believe this could happen again?
Sure, absolutely. You know, there's a character in the book who says, you know, LA has a riot problem. You know, Zoot Suit riots in the 30s, Watts in 65, 92. He's basically planning in his head, these are roughly every 30 years. Okay, so 2022, there'll be another riot. And I think that humor masks some of the darker facts, which are simply that certain things haven't changed. Certainly in South Central or South LA, as it's now known, you know, there's certainly issues in terms of good jobs, good education, quality access that remain. And unfortunately, I think the stage is still set for another possible one.
All Involved. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Ryan Gattis, do you think having more racially diverse emojis perhaps could help us find harmony a little easier?
I'm unfortunately not the person to talk to about that.
Just had to ask.
Anything is possible.
Thanks for joining us.